What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Thrive City podcast. You heard. We are here. My name is Pastor Greg, and this lovely woman that I'm sitting next to is none other than Pastor Saryta. P-Ree is what we call her.
Hey, guys.
So we actually have been off for like a month. We went back to look at what our last podcast episode was, and it was like March 27th or something of that nature.
It's been a while.
What's been happening during that period of time? We had a son. So we have a son that's 18, and he just made all-state choir.
Yes.
And that was
all the way to Tucson.
Amazing accomplishment.
Yeah, all the way to Tucson to watch him perform and all those that made it across the state of Arizona. And it was an awesome performance just to sit there in the auditorium, to hear all of the beautiful voices, the harmonies. The composer did a great job at putting the pieces together. It was such an awesome experience.
Yeah, it's hard for me in those kind of contexts because like I'm a church boy, so like when something happens, I be wanting to like, all right, and they're like, this is not the time to do that. You have to be quiet during this period of time. So, but it was a really good experience. He's also graduating.
Gosh, in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks from this recording
day, yeah.
And so we've had to do like what was it called? The senior picture photo shoot.
Yeah.
We had to go buy clothes. We had to like get a photographer. Spend a lot of money.
Spend money.
As you guys are looking, those of you who are younger, who are just married, take your time. Take your time. Because kids are expensive. Yeah. Very expensive. We're trying right now to figure out what we're going to do after graduation. And it's like $1,500 to do something at one place as a minimum.
Oh, for the graduation dinner.
For the graduation dinner.
It's a thing.
And we're like, who and why?
Totally worth the investment, though.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's still a lot of money.
It is. And 18 years go so fast.
My goodness. I always say, like, I heard someone say this years ago, and I understand it now. They say the days go by slow, but the years go by fast.
So true.
Because when you're in the thick of things, when things are going on and, you got kids running around and, flipping over stuff, it's like, what in the world is happening right now? But then you look up and it's like, man, he's 18. 18. And graduating.
My mommy heart is just full of all the feels. Yeah. But it's all good stuff.
And my daddy heart is like, praise God.
Of course.
And where's he going?
He is going to Grand Canyon University. So we are excited about that. I remember going on the school tour and we were like, please pick here. Please pick here.
But we weren't going to tell him that.
No, we weren't.
Because we wanted him to develop his relationship with the Lord. Yeah. One thing that we have always done, this podcast ain't even about this, but hey, listen. One thing we've always encouraged our kids to do is that as they're getting older, they have to come out of our relationship that we have helped them to build with God to now having their own relationship with God.
And it's been really a privilege to watch that unfold for him, for Jeremiah. Yeah. I'm sure eventually he'll watch this. And so we're just to say to you, Jeremiah, I'm sure you're going to watch this one day. We're just so proud of you. We're proud of the young man you've become, proud of the accomplishments that you have made up until this point. Yeah. And we look forward to the great things that are going to happen later on in the future. And we are just so thankful as parents to be able to be along for the ride.
Amen. Ditto all of that. It's good stuff. So that's kind of the reason we've been off from podcasting is just a lot's going on in life. And one thing that we try to do our best of is we want to do better as parents than we do as pastors. Because at the end of the day, the Bible does speak to that if you're in a leadership role, that how can you lead his house if you can't lead your own house well? Right. And so if we have to take time off of podcasting to make sure that we're present, that we're at games, that we are at the shoots, that we're making sure everything is going well, we're willing to do that because we understand how important that is.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So now we back, though.
We're back. And in full effect.
Yeah. And every podcast episode, we always start the same way. We started with a question of the pod as you deem the name of it.
Yeah, question of the pod. I'm a little nervous because you've been off for a month, so I know telling what's been brewing.
Hey, this is actually your fault. Because you started asking questions like, do you go to the bathroom with the door open when no one's there?
Valid.
I'm like, who wants to even know that?
That is completely valid, 100%.
So whatever question I ask is never on the level of the questions you tend to ask me.
We'll see.
So here's my question of the pod.
All right.
As a teenager, who was your celebrity crush?
Who was my celebrity crush as a teenager? So I know you don't believe me when I've said this before. We've talked about this before. I never really crushed on like celebrities. It's funny because it's different now. Because if you were to ask me who is my celebrity crush
now
as an adult,
it's terrible. I should tell that story. I don't know if we have time though.
Okay.
No, I'm gonna tell that story real quick.
As a teenager, you said as a teenager.
Okay.
So as a teenager, I would say the only one that I can really think of that comes to mind every time I think of something like that is Tevin Campbell.
Okay, was it because Tevin Campbell was handsome, or was it because he was hitting the notes?
Both.
Wow.
I thought Tevin Campbell was handsome.
So when I was hitting the notes, that it was pretty much a flashback, but me more handsome.
100%.
Absolutely. I love that your answer was so quick right there. Praise God. You are from my rib.
You know I am. Straight from your side.
Straight from my side. So Tevin Campbell. Okay.
Tevin Campbell. Yeah.
I actually would have guessed either Tevin Campbell or Criss Cross.
No, not at all. Criss Cross, not at all. That was just my first concert that I went to.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So thank you for answering the pod question.
You're welcome.
Honestly.
You're welcome.
And we won't talk about who her crush is currently.
Yes.
Because I boycotted all of his movies.
No, you haven't.
I feel like boycotting all of his movies. Every time I see him, I'm reminded.
Now you'll have people wondering who it is.
And that's why I'm in the gym. I'm not going to tell you. That's why I'm in the gym, because I need to get my Henry body. I'll leave it right there. My Henry Cavill. Sorry.
See?
Dang, I said the whole name. That's my bad. That's my bad. It just came out.
That's just wrong.
I'm in the gym, guys, and trying to Henry. Holla at your boy. All right. So every podcast, we either do one of two things. We will either take the time to break down a vibe and value, and that's pretty much just our core values as a church, or we'll do an update to kind of just walk you through the ups and downs, the roller coaster ride of this journey called church planting.
And it's been a roller coaster.
It has definitely been a roller coaster. But today we're actually going to do an update podcast episode.
Yeah.
And so last time March 27th was the last time we came out with a podcast episode. Mm-hmm. So 2 days later, we actually had our first service, which was our Good Friday service. Mm-hmm. So what was that like for you specifically?
So, I think I got the opportunity to experience both sides of the Good Friday service. I got to experience the side of being behind the scenes, being a part of the team, having to set everything up, get everything in place, make sure that we created the atmosphere for an awesome worship experience. And then I also got to be on the side of actually being fully immersed in the experience as well. So that was great to have both experiences. Being on the back end, the backside of the behind the scenes of it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
It was a lot of work making sure that we got everything set up. We are recovering perfectionists. Well, I'll speak for myself. I'm definitely a recovering perfectionist. So because of that, you want everything to be just right.
Right.
You want, when people walk in, you want them to walk in and immediately feel the presence of God. That's the number one thing. Wanting to know that God is definitely there. His presence is there. But you also want to make sure you make it aesthetically pleasing as well, right?
Yeah.
You want people to walk in and see your decor. You want people to walk in and feel welcomed in the room. You want them to, see smiling faces as we built the welcome teams and the greeters and all those things. So we put a lot of work into the experience, talking to the team, getting them set up for the experience, making sure that people knew that they were welcome to be in the place and that we had set up the atmosphere, set up the experience to be one that we got to be able to worship God freely, with no, hindrances or anything like that. I wouldn't say that necessarily happened in the setup process, but nonetheless, we got there.
Yeah.
We got to the point where we took care of the little kinks in the chains and the different things that kind of went awry here and there. But being on the side of being immersed in the experience was great.
Yeah.
Just the presence of God was so thick in the room. And we got the opportunity to just reflect on how good of a father he is, the good things that he's done, and why Good Friday is called Good Friday.
Yeah.
So.
Do you remember what the sermon title was?
I remember it had good in it, so you just put me on the spot.
If it's not
I don't remember.
He's not done.
Okay, that's right.
And we were pretty much talking about the reality being that sometimes it's hard to determine what's good and what's bad. And I use the example of like, a parent who grew up in a household where they were kind of like poor. And so the parent comes, with this mission in life to make sure that their kid has everything that they didn't have. And you would think that's gotta be good. But then what ends up happening is they raise a kid that's entitled. They raise a kid that doesn't have work ethic because they've done so much to give them such a life that they forgot that, hey, there's a part of our lives that needs struggle.
Yeah.
Because in struggle comes development.
Yes.
And so the good thing could end up being something that doesn't seem so good. And we talked about that the only way really to know if something is good that comes into your life or not is that you have to know the one who you're trusting with everything that does come into your life. Because if God is present, all things work together for the good.
Absolutely.
So that means everything we experience, everything that we go through will turn out good when we put it in the hands of the one who has no limit, who is an expert at every situation and knows how to turn that thing around for your favor.
Yeah.
It's just the same thing with the cross. No one could look at the cross in the moment and say, oh, that's good. We would have said, man, that's bad. Like it's bad.
Right.
Like, it's bad. I mean, that was the perspective. But out of that situation that looked bad became the salvation of humanity, which was good.
So good.
And so understanding that Good Friday, the reason why it's good really is because we know what the end story is.
Yeah.
When you're living in it, it ain't that good.
Yeah.
But when it is that you allow God to use it, we see that God did something really good.
Absolutely.
So that experience, man, it was really good. The only reason we talk about numbers is not necessarily to like boast about how many people we had, but it's the journey that we're going on. We had 186 people show up to our Good Friday service. And I was like, man, that was amazing. That was encouraging to see you put in all the work, you do all the things. And it's like, man, we saw a significant amount of people come out to that service.
Yeah. To see 186 souls impacted by the presence of God. It was an amazing experience.
Yeah, it definitely was. Now, one thing is that always when you do something for the first time, I think the expectation has to be that you're going to suck at it a little bit.
Right.
I always say you have to endure a season of suck in anything that you're doing. No one starts off at expert level. Everyone starts off really in suck season. And some people give up in that season and they never get to see the genius that actually God put on the inside of them. Because all of us have three things. All of us were born with natural abilities that we have to develop. We were also given not natural abilities, but skill sets that we have to develop over time ourselves. That's things we do with our jobs and things of that nature. And then we were given spiritual gifts. And those are the things that God deposited on the inside of us. We had no say in it. And then we also have to learn and develop those spiritual gifts as well.
Right.
And so when it comes to these natural abilities or these skill sets, they're just things that we have to go through the time of sucking.
Yeah.
Is there something that like you like, man, I sucked at this and I'm better at it now?
Gosh, I could think of a lot of things.
Give the people one.
Give the people
I know you do all things well.
Let's just use the context of the Good Friday service.
Okay.
So I was asked to lead prayer at the beginning to open up the Good Friday service. And I remember a time where the thought of leading prayer in a room of 2 or 3 people had me shaking in my boots, sweating, about to have a complete meltdown and anxiety attack.
Yeah.
But I can reflect back over the years just how people have poured into me, how people have encouraged me, how I've learned that prayer is, my conversation with God. It's an open door to invite God's presence into whatever the situation, circumstance is, that the event is. And over that time, as I've cultivated more confidence in that area and I've built that muscle behind the scene, as you said, developing the skill, but behind the scene, that fruit has now been shown in a moment where I'm called to come up front and lead and open up, the worship service that we had, the Good Friday service that we had. So I will say prayer used to be interesting for me. I don't know if you could say someone sucks at prayer. That's a little tricky
that's going
territory
far.
To walk on, but
I've heard some interesting prayers though.
Okay. That's fair. I'm
gonna get in trouble for that one.
But I think as I've grown and developed and I've kind of learned who I am in prayer, how I show up in prayer, that moment ended up being a moment where I got to be fully in the moment and not like all in my head, like, oh my God, I didn't say the right thing. And literally like, oh my God, I didn't say the right I didn't say the right thing. So I would say that I can use that as an example. Just over time, it's been developed and I've gotten better.
Yeah. What's crazy is that when we met, I remember hearing you pray for the first time.
You do?
Yeah, I do. And one of the things I thought was interesting was you sounded very different from me because I grew up in church. I was a part of a Methodist church, so we were very methodical in how we did things. It's very structured. And I remember hearing you pray, and I was like, she's praying like God is her friend. Like she's just talking to someone in the room. And, I'm coming with, Father, in the name of Jesus, we come now, bent knee and bow head. I'm like in there.
Not in there.
Because that's what I heard growing up. But when you came, it was like, oh, Lord, I love you so much. And I just am, today is not a good day. And I was like, who is she talking to? And what it did for me, though, is it showed relationship as opposed to religion. And you helped me personally break the religious ritual of prayer and really start to be just honest with God about where I was and have a conversation like he's in the room with me. So, yeah, I never knew a interesting or suck time that you had. You, even in the times where you weren't confident, you were teaching. So I appreciate that about your prayer time with God.
That's nice to know. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. All right. So we had Good Friday. We've had a second launch team meeting and a second vision night.
Yes.
So vision night, our second one. How do you think it went?
I can say and this is no shade, I'll say, to anybody else, but I can say our second vision night, the greatest part about it was being able to see the new faces that showed up. Yep. We were very grateful for in the first vision night to have all of the people who came, from our past to show up with support and love and, to encourage us and to cheer us along the way. But it's nothing like seeing the work that you put into creating the opportunity for people to come and hear what Thrive City is about, to see people who don't know us, don't know us from a can of paint. Maybe they came across us on a Facebook ad. Maybe they heard through word of mouth. Yeah. Maybe they didn't, and they just happened to be at the Goodyear Rec where we were at having the vision night, and they said, well, this looks interesting. Let me come check it out. Yeah. But for those people to show up in the room and be interested and intrigued by the vision of Thrive City Church, that was awesome.
Yeah,
that was the best part.
Yeah, that was it was encouraging to also see a lot of people from the Good Friday service. Yeah, it'd be their first time at the Vision Night, which meant like their service was so impactful that they wanted to hear more. About Thrive City and hear more about God, and so that definitely was one of my highlights as well. The other part is I think last time we were on the podcast we talked about all the stuff that went wrong at the first Vision Night. And we're happy to say that this second Vision Night, we didn't have any hiccups.
We overcame our season of suck.
We did. And it only took us one time, So I think one of the things is whenever you're starting something, whenever you're leading something, keep in mind that evaluation is going to get you to excellence. Yeah. Without that evaluation, excellence is not going to happen. I always go back to God being the first one that modeled evaluation. It says he created this on day one. He stepped back and he said, it's good. Good.
That's right.
Then he got to a specific day and he created man and he said, it's not good for man to be alone. That took evaluation.
It did.
And so instead of, stepping back and being, why didn't I think of this before? God was like, no, it's not good for man to be alone. Let me fix it. And now there was something that he created in woman that was the result of evaluation. And I think if we can look at it in that same way to say evaluation is not failure. When you're evaluating and you're like, man, this went terrible. This could have went better. What are we doing in this area? when we can look at it and have an honest conversation and then just submit to this is a part of the process to excellence, I think we would be less condemning of how something happens, and we would be more encouraged to say this isn't failure, this is a lesson.
Yeah, I think we have to be careful how we label to those moments where we feel like something went wrong or we failed or it was a bad experience. But really what we call it when we discuss, have the evaluation time, let's call it a growth opportunity.
Yeah, that's
it's a space where we can grow in, and I think all of us in several areas of our lives have growth opportunities. So I think being careful what we label it, and that will, because how we label it will define how we go through it, how we see it and how we show up in it.
Yeah.
And so it's necessary, like, hey, this was a growth opportunity. It's a place where I can grow. And then setting up measurable goals to say, now how can we grow in this particular area?
That's good. You teaching right there. Our second launch team meeting, it was so encouraging because one thing that we saw is people that came back from the vision night and they said, I want to hear more. And then after hearing more, we had a lot of people commit to being a part of the launch team. So currently, right now, we're sitting at 51 people that have committed to the launch team.
It's exciting.
To help us launch Thrive City.
Yeah.
And we have a pending 6 people who are still showing up to events saying, I really want to spend a little bit more time with you guys to see. So, you're talking about 57 potential in 2 months. That's extremely encouraging.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's encouraging to see the family grow.
Yeah. Last event that we had was a social.
Yep.
So we had a social event. We called it a Thrive Social. Where was it and what was it like?
So we had our Thrive Social. It was a lot of fun. We had it at the Goodyear. It's called Goodyear Recreation Campus is what it's called when you talk about the campus part of it. And they were actually having Food Truck Friday there. And that,
you're a foodie.
You just
She's
say
a chef.
Food Truck Friday and you got me right there. You had me at hello, you had me at food. So that was great. Come on, total foodie. As I admitted to someone recently, I think I kind of have a semi-adulterous relationship with food.
It's crazy how she said that, but there are times when she eats food and I'm like, I don't think you respond to me that way at times. So we're going to need to get this together.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, so Food Truck Friday. So we decided to piggyback on what they were doing and just put together a social event. And it was nothing extravagant. It was just those from Thrive, those who have been a part of anything that we've done with Thrive, to come get together, hang out. We reserved pickleball courts. We reserved ramadas. We had the basketball courts. So everybody had the opportunity just to hang out and do whatever they felt like doing while building community.
Yeah.
And I think that was the main goal of it. There was no stress in trying to put together, tear down, set up anything. It was like, let's just come together, let's meet and let's hang out and let's get to know each other. Yeah. And I really enjoyed that opportunity because it was more of a more relaxed opportunity, or more relaxed atmosphere to be able to sit and just talk. And I love people. People energize me. So it was cool just sitting there being able to talk to different people and just hear about things going on in their lives.
Yeah.
And then I won't say the best part, but the benefit of the event was being able to walk around and go check out the food trucks.
Yeah.
Now that was the downside to it.
That was a downside.
So we went to go check out the food trucks, and the food trucks I wanted to try ran out of food by the time we got up to the line, to the front. I was like, seriously, I wanted some of the prime rib tacos.
Yeah.
And brisket tacos. Brisket tacos. They had ramen, and all these places, by the time I got up to the front, they shut down. So
that could be a word for somebody, is that don't wait too long to get in line.
That'll
preach. Or it could be you need to make sure that when demand comes, you got enough to supply.
That's true. That's on their end.
That's
That's good.
That'll preach as well.
That's good.
Okay. So, all right, what we got coming up? May 9th. We have our next Vision Night coming up. We actually have a lot of people that are signed up, new faces, new names.
New faces.
So we're extremely excited for what's going to happen on that evening. So as we end this podcast, so it's been now, let's see, 4 months. Give me your greatest high in the last 4 months and give me the greatest low in the last 4 months.
Oh, let me see. Greatest high. I'm going to say the people.
Yeah.
Because I'm a people person, I love meeting people. I love talking to people. I love hearing the stories that people tell about, how they ended up finding us, just the stories they tell about themselves and their lives, the quirky things people share. With people who watch the podcast, know I'm a foodie, and they come up to me and they're like, so yeah, when do we get invited to the house for food? Stuff like that. I love that. Yeah. So I love seeing the people God is calling to be a part of Thrive, and he's compelling them to come and to join what we're doing. So that is probably my greatest high. Just getting that opportunity to rub shoulders with other people and meeting people in the community and whatnot. That's great. So that's the greatest high. You want to share your greatest high first before I share my low?
Yeah, I think for me it's seeing the vision come to pass. And I think it's like, you have it in your head, you talk about it, you meet about it, and then now to see it, that's just been real special. Because every person that walks through the door, when you see it, is a soul. It's a daughter. It's a son. It's a nephew that someone's probably praying for.
Yeah.
And so to see the vision come to pass has been my greatest high.
That's good. That's good. I will say my greatest low is going to be developing as a leader in this season. I would say that would probably be my greatest low. And I say that because, coming from the previous season where I kind of was immediately given positional leadership, I don't want to say like the positional leadership power, if you want to say it that way, where I was the children's director at the church we were at previously. So if people wanted to serve in kids, they automatically had to be under my leadership. There was no question about that. If I want to serve in kids, then this is who my leader is going to be. But when it comes to Thrive, they're choosing this, not knowing what kind of leaders we are. And they're taking the time to get to know us. And those that have decided to stay around, either two things: one, believe that they're 100% called by God to be a part of what Thrive is doing, but two, there's something about our leadership that also compels them to be a part of what we're doing. And so growing as a leader in this season, I've been pursuing after God, saying, what type of leader do I need to be? Who do I need to be in this season? How do I need to show up in this season? Really trying to have a seasonal perspective as it pertains to Thrive, because it looks different from what I was doing before. And so I think as a leader, that it's like that the leadership pain, we've kind of talked about that. And I feel like that's a part of it. So that's pain is not enjoyable. So that brings that low feeling, but I know pain is necessary for development.
That's so good.
If you're not experiencing pain, you could kind of question, are you actually growing as a leader?
Ooh.
So I think that would probably be, if I were to say a low, it's a low, but it's also a high in a way because I'm up for the challenge.
It's great. It's great. I would say mine has probably been the roller coaster of emotions when it comes to just all-encompassing. And the one thing I prayed this year to start with is fortify my inner man was my prayer. And I'm so glad that was my prayer, because the amount of up and down, people being there, people not being there, just this coming through, this not coming through, giving month starting off strong and then it tapers off, or it starts off bad and then it gets better. It's like it's the emotional roller coaster of it all, and even just the spiritual attack, the spiritual warfare that you experience in this type of journey can have you up and down. And so I'm not an up and down person normally, and so this year I've had to navigate how will I respond to the up and downs. Because I'm used to waking up on a high, and then life may bump against me, but it's a new experience to wake up on a low and then have to learn how to manage and get to the right place emotionally.
Yeah, how fitting was a Good Friday service then for just the season of life we're in, that we have God in the midst of it all. And if he is in the midst of it all, because he's a good father, because he desires what's best for us, he's going to make all things work together for our good, that in the highs and the lows, in the unfamiliarity of everything, in the ups and downs of roller coaster ride of it all, we can be confident that he's just walking with us through it all, and that it is going to turn out good.
So we'll end right there, because I think that's a good place to end. So listen, thank you so much for spending your time with us on the Thrive City podcast. You know how we ended. You were not designed to survive. You were designed to thrive. We'll talk to you on the next one.
See you guys.